Today, we're diving into a story of absolutely radical change. I mean, how a society that was steeped in brutality and ignorance could be completely reshaped, totally transformed in just a couple of decades, all by the message of a single man.
So, let's set the scene. Picture this, a scorching day out in the Arabian desert. The air is thick with heat, sure, but there's something heavier in the air too, a kind of deep spiritual darkness. You see a man working silently, methodically, digging. And this isn't just some random hole in the ground. You can just feel it. There's a grim purpose to his work that's about to become terrifyingly clear.
And his little girl is there watching him. She has no idea what's going on, of course. She's just happy, absolutely thrilled to finally be spending time with her father, someone she's rarely felt affection from. She's even trying to help, brushing the dust off his clothes, totally unaware of what's coming.
And then, the unthinkable happens. Without warning, he shoves her into the hole and just starts shoveling sand over her face as she cries out. It's a brutal, horrific act. But what's really chilling is that this wasn't some isolated horror. It was a symptom of the times. So to really understand the scale of the transformation that was about to happen, we have to look closer at the world that so desperately needed changing. This was an era known as the time of ignorance. The Arabic term for it is jahiliyyah, and it perfectly describes a society where people's souls were just gasping for air, a place where violence was common and ignorance clouded everything. And this wasn't just about burying daughters, as horrible as that is. We're talking about a world of endless, pointless blood feuds between tribes that could last for generations. The powerful crushed the weak without a second thought, and people would literally carve idols from stone with their own hands and then turn around and bow down to worship them. But into this darkness, a light was starting to emerge, and it came in the form of a man known throughout the city of Mecca, not for his power, not for his wealth, but for his character. His name was Muhammad. Here's a story that just perfectly illustrates his reputation. The tribes of Mecca were literally about to go to war. Swords were drawn over who got the honor of placing the sacred black stone back into the wall of the Kaaba. But instead of fighting, they all agreed to let one man decide. Muhammad, the man they all called Al-Amin, the trustworthy. And his solution? It was so simple, so elegant, so fair, and it completely prevented a bloody war.
But his role was destined to be so much bigger than just a local peacemaker. Years later, at the age of 40, while meditating in a cave, this same man would receive a message that would challenge the very foundations of his world. This is where the true struggle was about to begin.
The angel Jibril appeared to him, and these were the very first words of the Quran. Now think about that. This wasn't a call to war or a grab for power. It was a call to knowledge, to understanding, to recognizing a single creator in a world that was filled with countless idols.
The contrast here is just staggering. This new message was a direct shot at the old ways. It said your tribe, your wealth, your status, it means nothing. Black, white, rich, poor, slave, free, everyone is equal. It demanded justice for the oppressed and gave this unprecedented value to women, with one famous saying declaring that paradise is under the feet of mothers. Now, as you can imagine, the powerful elite of Mecca saw this message as a massive threat to their entire system. It threatened their power, their wealth, their whole social structure. And their response was just brutal. The early Muslims were tortured for their faith. A devastating 3-year boycott was put in place that left them starving, literally eating tree bark to survive. In a single year, Muhammad himself lost his beloved wife and his protective uncle. Later, he was stoned by a mob until he was bleeding through his shoes. And yet, the message survived. Facing assassination plots, the small community of Muslims migrated north to the city of Medina. But this wasn't a retreat. It was the beginning of an entirely new chapter. This was their chance to not just be a persecuted minority, but to actually build a new kind of society from the ground up. But building that new society wasn't going to be peaceful. The Meccans followed them, which led to a series of really decisive battles. You can see on the timeline there was a shocking victory at Badr, a really painful loss at Uhud, and then a brilliant defensive win at the Battle of the Trench. But, the real game changer wasn't even a battle. It was a treaty, the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. That truce paused the fighting and let the power of the message itself win people over. And what's so incredible is how this society was being built. It wasn't just through fighting. It was through these new laws and pillars. The Constitution of Medina, which was the first of its kind, actually guaranteed rights for everybody, including non-Muslims. Obligatory charity, or zakat, created a real social safety net. And get this, when alcohol was prohibited, the believers, for whom it was a huge part of their culture, literally poured it all out into the streets overnight. That just shows you the power of their new faith.
So after years of struggle, exile, and building, the story comes to its climax. It's a return to the very city that had cast them out, Mecca. Think about this for a second. The man who had fled Mecca with just a single friend now came back at the head of an army of over 10,000 people. The balance of power had completely, irreversibly flipped. But what happened next was maybe the most beautiful conquest in history. Not a single drop of blood was shed in the city. To the very people who had tortured, starved, and murdered his followers and his family, Muhammad declared a general amnesty. He just said, everyone is forgiven. And in his final sermon, he just laid it all out there, the core of his life's work. In a world totally defined by what tribe you were from or what color your skin was, he declared that the only thing that makes one person better than another is their character and their awareness of God. It was just a radical, revolutionary declaration of human equality. And this brings us right back to the beginning. In just 23 years, there had been a complete, total transformation. That father who buried his daughter alive became a man who was now afraid to even harm an insect. The tribesmen who drew their swords over petty honor became like brothers, willing to die for one another. It was a society transformed from the inside out. The light that was planted in those hearts just grew, and it blossomed, and it has reached all the way across the centuries to us today. And it leaves us with one final, really powerful question to think about. What does it truly take to change not just a person, but an entire world?